Where the Soul Rests Part 1, The Station of Silent Trains. That autumn came without warning, just like all the important changes. The trees in the main square of Avila were beginning to wear their melancholy in shades of red and orange, crunching under the hurried steps of the townsfolk. Clara stepped off the 9:20 train, her dark hair falling over a gray coat that seemed tailor-made for her nostalgia. She hadn't returned to this town in 8 years, and yet every stone, every street lamp, every scent seemed to remember her. She didn't plan to stay long. She only came to close a chapter she pretended to have forgotten, but which still pulsed stubbornly deep inside her chest. Her grandmother, recently deceased, had left her the old family house. Clara thought it fair to visit one last time, maybe collect a few letters, a photo, something that proved not everything had been erased. The wind brushed her cheeks like it recognized her face. She passed the old Café Los Tulipanes, its faded sign still hanging. At one of the terrace tables, someone read the newspaper beside a steaming coffee. The church bell rang 10. Clara didn't look at the table. She knew he wouldn't be there. Not after all these years. Part 2, The Return of Yesterday. The house was unchanged. The wooden door still bore the wine stain her uncle left the night of Cousin Irene's baptism. Inside, the scent of old wood and cinnamon hit her like a memory-flood Christmases with the crooked tree, her grandmother's love letters hidden in books, and most of all, him. She sat on the living room sofa and placed her suitcase on the floor. Above the fireplace still hung the black and white photo, her grandmother young, hair pinned up, eyes filled with untold stories. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Clara whispered. The afternoon drifted by silently. When the sky turned violet, she went for a walk. She crossed the Adagio River Bridge, each step pulling her closer to what she had long avoided. She found him without looking, just like all important things. He was in the bookstore, the same one where they had met, still behind the counter, flipping through a book as if the world hadn't turned in all those years. "Hi, Gabriel," she said, not bracing for what came next. He looked up, and for a moment, time froze. Same messy chestnut hair, same honey-brown eyes, though dimmer, more grown. Part 3, Words Left Unspoken. They spoke like years hadn't passed, but with the awkwardness of two people who knew every word would be weighed by the past. Clara browsed books without reading. Gabriel leaned against a bookshelf, voice trembling. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said. "Neither did I. You're here for the house?" "Just for a few days. I might sell it." Gabriel swallowed hard. That house had once been their refuge, their hideaway, their first kiss. He remembered the afternoons Clara read him poetry aloud, rainy Sundays cooking together. "How's life been?" he asked casually. "Empty," Clara replied. The raw honesty surprised them both. "I've traveled a lot, worked too many jobs, but I never really stayed anywhere." "Sometimes you have to stop running." Clara looked down. He didn't say it as a reproach, just a painful truth. "And you? You stayed?" "I did. I guess this is my place." "I never knew if you waited for me," she whispered. Gabriel didn't answer right away. He handed her a copy of The Little Prince. "I always hoped you'd come back, but I learned not to make my waiting a prison." She took the book. No bookmark inside, but she knew which page to look for, page 93, the one that read, "What is essential is invisible to the eye." Part 4, The Echo of Silence. Clara wandered through the bookstore like she was walking through the ruins of a memory. Every corner had a story. There, behind the small reading sofa, Gabriel had read Neruda to her. And by the window at the back, he kissed her for the first time with trembling hands. This wasn't just a business, it was a sanctuary. Gabriel watched her in silence. Unsure whether to approach or stay away, the Clara before him was the same, yet different. Stronger, maybe colder, but with the same eyes that lit up while reading a sad poem. "Do you remember when you drew a map of our imaginary cities in chalk across the hallway floor?" he asked. Clara smiled for the first time. "Yes, you said that if I ever got lost you'd follow it to find me." Gabriel nodded. He wanted to tell her he did, that he searched for her in other people, other arms, but none smelled like her or sounded like her voice. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked without looking at him. "I was. It didn't work out." Silence. The kind filled not with awkwardness but with memories, until the doorbell rang and a customer walked in. Clara took the chance to leave. Before walking out, she turned and said, "Maybe I'll come back tomorrow." Gabriel watched the door close behind her and whispered, "I hope it's not too late." Part 5. The Heart Remembers. That night, Clara stayed in her grandmother's house. The electricity still worked. Water flowed slowly but enough. She showered, made tea, and sat by the window with the book Gabriel had given her. On the back cover, in shaky handwriting, a note read, "If you return, let this book remind you who you were when you still knew how to stay." G. A knot formed in her throat. She knew why she had left. She knew that if she stayed, she would have broken him. He had small but solid dreams. She, on the other hand, wanted to devour the world, and ended up being devoured. The next morning, she woke to the distant sound of church bells. Dressed in a loose sweater and jeans, she walked past the school where she once taught for a year. The murals she painted with her students still decorated the walls. An old man recognized her and waved. At noon, she visited the cemetery with flowers for her grandmother. In front of the gravestone, she stayed silent for a long time, then said, "You know, I still love him, and I don't know what to do with that." The wind seemed to sigh in response. Part 6. Rain and Confessions. That afternoon, she returned to the bookstore with 2 coffees. Gabriel was waiting. They didn't talk about the kiss, as if naming it might make it fragile. "Do you still write?" he asked. She shook her head. "I lost the will. When I left you, my voice left too." Gabriel opened a drawer and pulled out a worn notebook. "I never stopped writing to you." Clara opened it. Page after page filled with unsent letters, dated, numbered, some filled with love, some with anger, some just a word, "Come back." She read them silently as tears slid down her face. That night, over dinner at Clara's place, they laughed again, cooked together, shared wine. Until Clara lowered her voice. "I met someone in Madrid. We were together 5 years. Gabriel stayed still. "Did you love him?" "At first, yes, but not like I loved you. He took care of me when I didn't want to take care of myself." "But he never replaced you." He nodded. "Not jealousy, just grief for the time he wasn't there." Clara looked into his eyes. "He left a year ago, said I was still in love with a girl who no longer existed." "Then it's time to rediscover her," Gabriel said gently. "Here if you want." She took his hand, and for the first time, felt no fear. Part 7. Inheritance of the Soul. Weeks passed. Clara didn't sell the house. She restored it, painted the walls. Let the sunlight in. She began writing again. Short stories, about love, loss, homecomings. Gabriel read them every night. They debated endings. Sometimes fell asleep with pages on their chests. One Sunday, Clara found a box in the attic. Inside, old letters. One from her grandmother she had never opened. It read, "If you return, remember, love is never lost. It only hides until someone dares to speak its name again. Don't run. Live, love, stay. That is your inheritance." She cried all night. The next day, she bought 2 train tickets, one to visit her mother, the other for Gabriel. "I want you to see my world," she said. "But after, let's come back here." Gabriel smiled. "We've always known this was our home." Part 8. Resting in Love. A year later, Clara opened a writing workshop in the bookstore. Gabriel kept the same counter. Laughter filled the space. Books rotated on the shelves. Their stories lived on just like them. Whenever someone asked how they met, Clara would say, "In the middle of a poem. And in the silence, we found each other again." It wasn't a fairy tale. It was real. It had fear, distance, hard choices, but above all it had return. Because some people the soul never forgets. It just waits, in silence. Until, one day, they come back. And everything finally fits. End.